Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really critical breakdown within our pharmaceutical supply chain. We're going to look at the cold, hard facts surrounding a recent and honestly highly concerning regulatory action taken against a major drug manufacturer. We are going to trace the entire investigation of Jackson Laboratories, mapping out the path from a devastating tragedy all the way to an unyielding regulatory crackdown. It's a question that strikes at the absolute heart of our medical system, right? How does a life-saving medicine, a drug meant to support the miracle of childbirth, become the center of a lethal investigation? It's a pretty somber and deeply serious reality we have to unpack today. When we go to a hospital, we place this kind of blind faith in the vials and syringes used in our care. We just trust that rigid standards have been met. But what exactly happens when that trust is compromised? The drug at the center of this whole crisis is synthetic oxytocin. Now, you might already know this, but it's a routine, vital hormone used to augment labor and control postpartum hemorrhage. It is literally a cornerstone of maternal care, designed to protect mothers during one of the most vulnerable moments of their entire lives. But as you'll see, the stark contrast between this intended medical care and the grim reality discovered on the manufacturing floor is, well, it's truly staggering. Let's move to and see how this builds because the crisis unfolded rapidly. It began on May 4th with a series of C-sections in a Rajasthan government hospital. Shortly after those procedures, a hospital inquiry was launched to look into some highly concerning outcomes among the mothers. As the investigation deepened, the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, the CDSCO, stepped in to conduct factory inspections of the drug's manufacturer. And that brings us right to the present situation where those manufacturing licenses have been abruptly canceled. To really understand the gravity of that timeline, we have to look at the tragic incidents reported on that day, May 4th. 5 maternal deaths and 6 cases of kidney failure occurred in that one Rajasthan government hospital. All of these severe adverse events were linked to the administration of oxytocin injections. Now, just to be completely impartial and accurate here, the exact cause of these tragic events is still under rigorous laboratory investigation by the Rajasthan government. But the correlation, it was alarming enough to trigger an immediate, massive response from health officials. So the crucial point is how the authorities reacted once that alarm was raised. The regulatory response was incredibly swift. Step 1, the tragic incidents were reported. Step 2, the Union Health Ministry immediately demanded facts, seeking a detailed report from the Rajasthan government to establish exactly what went wrong. Step 3, the CDSCO, alongside state drug regulators, launched targeted, risk-based inspections. They zoomed right in on the manufacturer of the drug, Jackson Laboratories, specifically targeting their manufacturing units in Punjab and Himachal Pradesh. And guys, the sheer scale of what they found is staggering. 58. When the Joint Inspection Team entered the Jackson Laboratories facility in Amritsar, Punjab, they didn't just find a few minor paperwork errors. They dropped the hammer, officially recording 58 critical observations of noncompliance. In the pharmaceutical manufacturing world, a critical observation means there is a severe deviation from safety standards that poses an immediate, serious risk. But the alarming discoveries didn't stop there. 451. Yeah. You heard that right. That is the staggering number of major observations the inspectors logged at that exact same facility. If you had an illusion of a pristine, highly controlled medical laboratory in your mind, this number completely shatters it. Hundreds of major regulatory violations in a facility responsible for producing life-saving injectable drugs. And this brilliantly illustrates just how deep the problem went. If you look at the gap between standard good manufacturing practices and the reality at Jackson Labs, it's night and day. Where standard protocols strictly require highly purified reverse osmosis water for processing, investigators found them literally using direct tap water. Direct tap water. Where you'd expect a stringently controlled clean area, inspectors found the tablet section doors opening directly to the outside dirt and air. Standard batch documentation, completely missing. Batches were being manufactured with no identification and absolutely no records. And perhaps most chillingly, where rigorous testing is a non-negotiable requirement, the inspectors found 0 finished product testing for the drug in question. 0. This stunning lack of quality control led the inspection team to a devastating conclusion. They stated flatly in their report, the certificate of analysis submitted by the firm is not reliable. The drug maker completely failed to provide analytical method verification. They had no process validation whatsoever. There was absolutely no stability study data for the oxytocin injections as required by the drugs rules. They were essentially flying blind with a critical medication meant for incredibly vulnerable patients. The factory floor itself was chaotic and profoundly unhygienic. Just picture this. Reject bottles were scattered haphazardly across the production areas. Loose labels were strewn about, and printed blister rolls were left entirely unsecured. In the parenteral department, which, by the way, should be the most tightly controlled sterile environment for injectable drugs, they found multiple tablet punching machines just sitting out in a common area. These conditions grossly violated multiple core safety provisions, including Schedule M, Schedule U, and Rules 74 and 78 of the Drugs Rules of 1945. To summarize the sheer depth of this breakdown, we can look to this definitive quote from the Punjab Food and Drug Administration's official report. They stated, quite simply, the firm is not following principles of GMP at any stage. Not just in one department, not just on a single batch, at any stage. It represents a total systemic failure of quality control and basic hygiene. Faced with this overwhelming evidence, the regulatory crackdown was immediate and unyielding. Based on the recommendations of the joint inspection teams, the state licensing authorities took decisive action. The oxytocin product in question was officially declared not of standard quality. The manufacturing license for the Punjab unit was completely canceled, and the Amritsar facility was ordered to be shut down immediately. On top of that, authorities also canceled the manufacturing license of Jackson Laboratories facility in Himachal Pradesh as the investigations continue there. Now, a situation this severe doesn't stay local for very long. The World Health Organization has also stepped in, seeking details from the Indian government regarding these media reports. But it's very important we clarify the WHO's role here. Their inquiry is part of routine global pharmacovigilance and regulatory surveillance. Officials stress that this is standard international procedure, and it should absolutely not be interpreted as a final legal finding against the product or the manufacturer by the WHO itself. But the reason the WHO is involved answers a vital question we should all be asking. Are these incidents isolated, or could they impact other countries? This highlights exactly why this matters on a global scale. They're checking to see if this specific drug was exported. You see, the international pharmaceutical supply chain is deeply interconnected. The WHO acts proactively to assess potential public health risks, ensuring that a localized manufacturing failure doesn't unknowingly trigger a wider international public health crisis. Which brings us to the core of this entire explainer. We rely on an invisible web of trust every single time we're handed a prescription or administered a treatment in a hospital. But when that invisible trust in our global pharmaceutical supply chain breaks down, when tap water replaces purified water and basic hygiene is just ignored, how safe is the medicine we trust with our lives? It's a fragile system, and as this investigation into Jackson Laboratories shows us, rigorous oversight isn't just bureaucratic red tape, it is literally a matter of life and death. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.